Hey guys, what's up? It's Jamie. In this video, we're going to be building this calculator app, and in here you can perform operations and see the results. And we're going to be doing this in Ionic 4, and the footage for building this is going to be completely uncut, and so you guys will get a much more explanation-heavy version. This will be super great for beginners, or if you just want a closer look at what I do when I'm actually building the apps. So I hope you guys like this kind of video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and enjoy the content, guys. If you haven't installed Ionic already, then be sure to watch my video on installing Ionic. So without further ado, let's start. I'm in the terminal here. I have VS Code open, and I'm gonna go into the directory which I'd like to start making my app in. So for me, that's in home/repositories/YouTube. That's where I keep all my projects for you guys. And then now that I'm inside this folder, as it says right here, I'm just going to generate my own Ionic project. And for that, I use Ionic. I think it's start. Yeah, start. And then the name of the project. And let's just call this one probably like just calculator. Let's not overcomplicate this. Okay, so when I run that, it says what kind of project would you like? This one is simply going to be a blank project because it doesn't have any navigation or anything like that. And now I need to figure out what to say during these pauses where the commands are running that I usually edit out. I formed a business today for JamieBot. The JamieBot business is called officially Bot Group LLC. Alright, and I need a business for things like payments and so forth, because I'm getting big enough now where I need my own company so that, you know, like I can have my own bank accounts and so forth, and just handle all the legal stuff that you gotta do. So like, if we go to the, oh wait, it's done. Ionic App Flow, I don't like using Ionic App Flow. Okay, so now the project is generated. So now I'm gonna go over and open that inside of VS Code. So it should just be right here, calculator, there we go. Okay, and now over here on the left, I'm gonna open up the app code. So this is where our home page is. This is where we're going to be writing all of our magic. First, to show you guys what it looks like, I'm just going to run Ionic serve -b -c. And the reason I do the -b and -c is -c says that I want to debug logs in this console. So in this console, which is the server that's running the app, it will show me logs for the app. Like if I console log something, it will show it here. And then the -c is so that it does not open a browser, because my default browser is Safari, and Safari is not good at debugging code. So, okay, so I have the app open right here, and I'm gonna press Command-Alt-I, and then that's gonna open up the developer tools. If you're on Windows, it's gonna be Control-Alt-I. Okay, so this page right here, this is the same as our home page. So see how up here it says Ionic blank? It says Ionic blank up here. So we're editing the home page right now. You can see it says /home. That's what that's all about. So if we want to start editing this to be our calculator app, I'm going to change the title to be calculator. We probably don't even need a title, to be honest. Maybe we'll just remove that, because once people see like the buttons and stuff like that, that's going to be pretty obvious that it's a calculator. Okay, now we don't need any of this stuff inside of here, the Ion content. Let's just refresh. Saving will automatically refresh the site. Alright, so it's all blank and ready for us to build a calculator. So what does a calculator need? A calculator needs just like a bunch of buttons, pretty much. So buttons in Ionic 4 are ion buttons, like that. Okay, so, I really wish I could see, I want like an existing calculator. Yes. I'm gonna open up the calculator so that we can have something to model this after. So a calculator has, okay, so it has the digits. Let's do those first. I think I'm just gonna, well, should I make a, you can like iterate over items in a for loop using the HTML. I'm trying to decide if I should just hard code them, just put in all 9 digits, or 10 digits rather, including 0, or use some sort of loop. And I think the answer to that is I'm going to use a loop, because I don't want to like configure all of the events for every single button. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Okay, I just want to show you what a button looks like if we just put a 1 in it. So an iron button with a 1 in it. Okay, so we got a button with a 1 in it. Now what I was saying is that we don't want to have to like make all of these buttons and then individually configure them to have events and so forth. Like I'll show you, we'll register an event. So click, so this is registering the click event on this button. Makes it so that when you click it, it calls a function, and the function for this is gonna be called on button press. It's usually something more descriptive than that, but since this app is literally about buttons because it's a calculator, I'm just going to call it on button press. And then I'm going to pass in the number of the button that was pressed. Okay, so that function needs to be declared over here in the TypeScript file. And it's on button press. Okay, and then as a parameter to this function, it takes in, we basically like name whatever we passed in right here. I'm just gonna call that num or something like that. And then I think we also maybe want to pass in like a role, because there are different types of buttons. So well, let's say that this will be, man guys, I'm having a hard time designing this because I want the button press to work for all of these different buttons, including the ones on the left. But for now, let's just say that it just takes in a num, and then maybe we have like a string. Yeah, we'll have a string that represents the actual value that's up here. Maybe it shouldn't be a string, maybe it should just be a regular number. We'll just call it the value that's in the calculator, and that is going to be set equal to 0 initially. Okay, so first let's just make sure that this button press call works. So I'm going to call console.log. This is how you log stuff to the developer console. And then I'm just going to log num. Okay, so we'll start with that. We'll keep it simple. Okay, now when we press the button, we're going to be looking over here on the right hand side in the console for the 1. And there it is. 1, 1, 1. Okay, so that's working just great. Now what I was saying back here with the value is that we want our app to have some sort of indicator for like what the current value of the calculator is, this guy right here. So let's go and make that happen. So inside of the HTML file, I'm probably just going to make we can make all sorts of things. I'm going to show you kind of how I do this part. I just like to go to the Ionic documentation. Not that one. Ionic docs. Not dicks, docs. Okay. And then I like to go over here to wherever it talks about components, right there, components. And then I like to just browse around in here and see if I can find something that looks like it'd be good. Maybe an ion item. So an ion item basically like takes up the whole row and looks kind of nice. Let's try making an ion item. Ion item. Autocomplete it like that, and then in here I can use these curly braces to display the value of, well, it's actually just called value. It's the name of the variable that's right here in the TypeScript. So using these curly braces, we're able to access that variable and show it in HTML. So let's see how that looks. Okay, so it's up there. Right now it is left justified. We want it to be right justified, so let's see if there is an easy way to do that. Text alignment. Okay, so we can open this link up right here, utility, attributes, documentation, and then it looks like it is text end. So if we put this, this is called an attribute. If we put this attribute on our ion item, then it's gonna align right. Yeah, so let's check that out. Okay, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Let's try and figure that out. Okay, item. Let's see. Text end. I wonder why that didn't work. I think it might be text justify. I think it might be because let's try and find this 0 here. I think I remember there was a property called item end. Let's see if that's one. Item end. Might be specific to item. I'm not sure if that'll work or not, but might as well try it. Okay, it didn't work. I think it's, I think you put whatever thing you want to be at the end inside of the ion item. Let's see if we can find that. I'm not sure why the text align did not work. Oh, we might need to put it inside of a div. Let's try doing that. So we'll put it inside of a div. Sometimes Ionic is just kind of particular about how it wants things to be organized. So we're just going to try doing that. When you're learning to code, it's a lot of just experimentation. You can tell that like I don't have all the stuff memorized. I'm just looking at the docs. It's because there's way too much stuff to memorize. It helps if you have a basic understanding, but... oh, and we need to put the... what was it? Text end, I think. But for the most part, just looking at the docs, you'll be just fine. It looks like that still didn't work. Let's just make sure it works at all. Let's try text capitalize. Oh wait, no, it's a number, so that won't work. You can tell why I edit stuff out now because there's just a lot of bugs with programming. So, float. Not float. Margin. Text start. Did I do that correctly? Text. Alright, let's inspect it and try and see why it's not working. Oh, the div is not taking up all of the width, which is kind of weird. Yeah, the div is like shrunken. Well, I'm just going to go back to the ion item documentation and keep looking for something that kind of does what we're trying to do. We got lines, ion item, ion label. I'm gonna try putting it in an ion label. Ion label, because ion labels work specifically with ion items. Ion label. And this one is probably going to be item end, because it's in an item. Wow, I'm having no luck today at all. Okay, well, I'm sick of this, so we're just going to text align it manually. What I'm going to do here is put a class on it. This is how you normally do things in HTML. You just put a class on it, and then you can style it. So I'm just going to call this maybe like value. And then in the SCSS, I can select for.value. The dot means that we're selecting for a class name. And then we just put the class name right there, and then we can put text align of right. And nothing should really be able to stop that from working. So hopefully it does. There we go. So now it's text aligned right. Let's also give it a bigger font size because we want it to look nicer. So I'm going to give it a font size of maybe like 32 px. When you're styling things, it's a good practice to keep things a multiple of 2, or at least or ideally a factor of 2, but at the very least a multiple of 2. So like 2, 4, 6, 8, or sorry, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128. Those are all of the factors of 2, like the powers of 2. Okay, so that looks a lot better. Let's try... now I want to repeat the buttons over here. So it looks like we have a bunch of buttons. We got 10 digits and then a dot. Let's try doing those, and then we'll also need some other buttons as well, but we'll put those in separate containers. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. First, let's just get the numbers showing up. So over here in the left, see how we're just hard-coding the value like this? Well, instead of doing that, we can instead provide an array, like make an array in the TypeScript. We'll call this maybe numbers. And then numbers will be an array, which we already know all of the numbers which are in the array. So it looks like we start from 7, so we'll just go 7, 8, 9, and then it goes 4, 5. 4, 5, and then 6, and then on the last one, well, the second to last one, it's 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, and then we just have commas separating all these values. And then at the very bottom, we have a 0 and we have a period. So the period is going to be kind of tricky. Let's just stick with these numbers for now, and then see if we can't get it working. Okay, so over here in the HTML, I'm going to repeat the button using an ng for loop. So this is something provided to us by Angular, which allows us to repeat elements so that we don't have to write the code for them over and over again. So I'm going to say for let num in numbers. So numbers is the array that comes from right here, and then num, that is the variable which we would like to refer to each item in the numbers array. So basically this will be repeated once for every number, and then we can use num to treat or to like represent that number inside of the button. So we'll put num in here, and since it's a variable, we're going to need to put it inside of these curly brackets to display it in the HTML. And then over here in the click event, we can just directly pass the num, because this is already looking for TypeScript code, whereas this is looking for basically like plain text. So we gotta escape it, or let Angular know that this is a variable, and that's how we do that. Okay, so let's go and check that out. I have an error. Ion button. Let's see if I have any syntax errors. Oh, it's not num in, it's num of. So that's the correct syntax for ng4. It's of, not in. So checking that out again. There are numbers, so now we can click each one of these guys and it will log the number over there in the right hand side. So that's looking good. One thing I did notice is that we kind of want like spaces between them. You know what I'm saying? Like we need a new line after the 9 and so forth. So I'm trying to figure out how we could do that. I think we're actually going to need a double for loop basically, so that we can also repeat breaks. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So basically what I was thinking is that we would group the numbers into subarrays. So there's the first subarray, here's the second one, and we just divide it by 3, or divide it into groups of 3. That's good water. Okay. And then the last one can have the 0, and we will close up the original array. So this is an array of arrays, and each array inside the numbers array. Let's change this to number groups instead. Each one of these arrays inside the array has the buttons for that row. And then inside the HTML, instead of directly iterating over the numbers like this, we're gonna have a wrapper. So a div is like just an element that takes up like a whole line. So we can use that to create our line breaks. So this is going to iterate over the number groups. So num group will be the variable that I call each group when I'm iterating over the numbers or number groups. So again, this variable comes from over here, number groups, and this is the variable which I would like to refer to each array inside of the number groups. And then we're also going to need another for loop. This is what I was saying when I said that we need a double for loop. See how there are 2 here? The second one, the inner one, is going to go through the actual numbers of num group. Okay, so this is repeated for every array, and this is repeated for every number in the inner arrays. Okay, and yeah, let's see how that looks. There we go. There's our buttons. I kind of almost just want to handle all the buttons that way, since it looks so good. Let's do that. Let's just put all of the buttons in that sort of thing. Sorry, the reason I keep looking over there is because when I press Command Tab, the selector thing is over there. I don't know why. I want it to be on this screen, but it's not. Okay, so for the number groups, I'm actually going to make these make the symbols on the right hand side as well. So we have times on that row, so we'll put an X and then divided by, how am I going to do divided by? I'll just put a slash for now. That one's a minus, sorry, minus. And then plus is on the row with the 3. Plus. And then equals is on the bottom row. And we also have some more buttons. We have a dot We have a dot. And we also have a equals. Let's see. I'm trying to decide how we want to do the dot. Yeah. I just kind of want another button down here so that it makes it even. But I'm not sure what button to put down there. Let's just put modulus down there. That's what this is. It's like the symbol for remainder. So like 2 divided by 3 gives you a remainder of 1, because there's 1 left over after you take 2 away from 3. At least that's what I think it means. That's what it means in computer science. I don't think I've ever pressed that button on the calculator before. But that's what our calculator is going to do. Okay, so we have our button groups, and there's also a group at the top which has a divided by symbol. You know, I don't think we really need that top row. Let's, instead of modulus, just put the divided by symbol over there. And then we can just have only these 4 rows instead of having a 5th row. So let's see how that looks. That is looking quite shiny, quite very good. Let's first adjust the size of these buttons. So I'm going to put a class on the buttons so that we can style them. So that's basically like what you do when you're trying to make something look better, is you almost always just first put a class on it. So this one is going to be called calc button. That's the name of the class I'm going to put on it. Then inside of the SCSS, I'm going to put calc button, like that. And this calc button is going to, I think I want it to have like a width of, the width should take up like 25% of the page, I believe. So we'll do that, 25%. And then the height can just be like, maybe like 64px. I'm not really sure what we're gonna need right there, but we'll just put that for now. Okay, so it looks like the width was a little bit too much due to the padding of the page, but I kind of like the padding of the page, so I'm just going to make it like 20% instead. Okay, that's looking a lot better. We also got to change the font size inside of these guys. So just inspecting that, I like to test things out right here first. So I'm going to put font size of 16px and just keep raising it until it looks good with the arrow keys. I like 32px. That looks pretty good. So let's change the font size to 32px officially. Alright, that's looking muy bueno. Very good. Okay, now let's actually make the buttons do something. That would be cool if they did something. So basically, I've never really made a calculator like this, but I was thinking that when you press each button, it just kind of checks if it's a number or not. And if it's a number, then it just adds it to this value up here, if it's a number or it's a dot. So inside of our function, remember that's called every time the button is pressed, inside of here we're just going to we need to check to see if it's a number. So if num is a number, oh, that doesn't work here. I think there's a function called type of num is equals to number. I think that works. Print. Oh, it's not print. It's a console.log is a number? Okay, what am I doing wrong here? This condition will always return false since the types string and number constructor have no overlap. I forgot how to check in TypeScript if it's a number. I'm just going to Google it. JS, or actually TypeScript. Check if it's a number. So oftentimes when I'm coding, I'll forget how to do something, and then I'll just Google it. I highly recommend this method. Number. Is it lowercase number? Is number. Oh, there's a function called is number. I think. Num. Oh. From util. I forgot that that existed. Okay, let's see if it logs is number. Is a number. Okay, and x is not a number. Hey, it's working, guys. Okay, so if it's a number, or we also want to check if it's a dot. Well, let's just leave the dot out for now. Okay, so if it's a number, because the dot's more complicated. So if it's a number, then we want to add the number to what is in the value, this thing right here. But it's not as simple as just adding the number. We basically need to take value. So this dot value is going to be equal to, and then we take the current value, this dot value, and then if you add a string to a number, it creates a string. So this is like a way of turning value into a string. And then, alright, I need some more water. Okay, and then we also want to add on num. So basically, if like this dot value is 0, then we'll take 0 and then add on that number. It doesn't really make sense if it's 0, but it does if it's if it's already a number. So I think we need like a variable to keep track of whether or not inputting new numbers should start typing, or like add to the existing number or override it. Because like, if you're in the calculator, if I type 1 plus 3, then press equals, then like it gives me, wait, okay, 1 plus 3 equals, yeah, so 4. But if I type in another number here, it overwrites the existing number, and then it starts typing. So we want that sort of behavior. So I'm going to make a boolean here called like does, or let's say we'll say ready for new input, and initially it's going to be true. So if we are ready for new input, let's see, and value needs to be a string initially. So if we're ready for new input, then we basically override the value actually with just the number. So we'll turn that into a string. And then if we're not ready for a new input, then what happens? So if we're not ready for new input, meaning like we've already typed in a number, then we basically need to add it on. So we'll do the same thing, except for we need to add on, we basically need to like add it to the existing value. So we use plus equals. Yeah, so let's see how that works. Testing a little bit at a time. Okay, so put in a 3, and that overwrites it. Then we put in a 5. That overwrites it again, so that's not what we're looking for. Oh, we forgot to set is ready for new input. Okay, so when are we ready for new input? Initially it's true, but then as soon as you type in a number, we actually need to set it to false. So this dot ready for new input is going to be equal to false. So let's test that out. Okay, so 2. Okay, so now it's working like a real calculator. And now let's, we also kind of need a clear button. Let's add in that clear button up here. Actually, I decided that the periods are kind of complicated. I don't want this video to be like 3 hours long, so let's replace the period symbol with a clear button. Okay. So we'll just put a C there, and make sure that that looks okay. Okay, so that's the clear button. And then let's make it so that if it's not a number, and the number is, I guess it shouldn't really be called num. We're just going to call it like symbol. So if the symbol is equal to C, then we want to perform a clear operation. So we could make a function for that, but I'm simply just going to say the value is equal to 0, the 0 string, and the reason it really needs to be a string is because we're adding onto this value and so forth. When we perform the calculations, we'll turn it back into a number. I'll show you that in a second. But when we press clear, we basically just need to clear the value, set it back to 0, and then set us as ready for new input to be true. So I'm pretty confident that that will work fairly well. So starting off, we are ready for new input, so we'll type in some numbers. Oh, I accidentally pressed the clear button. So when we press clear, now it reset it to 0, and I'm ready to start typing in more numbers again. Okay, so that is perfect. That's working just fine. Okay, now I think basically the last thing that we need to do actually is just make these operations work. So in the case where, well, in the last case is that it's a symbol. So I'll put that as a comment here. It's an operator, because everything left, they're all operators. Equals isn't really an operator, but we'll check that here. Otherwise, if it's the equal sign, we'll handle that in a second. But otherwise, it's an operator. So now we got to figure out how to make the operator work. So I know that if you press an operator, we need to be ready for new input, and we also need to store the old value. So old value, let's see, I think we'll just set it equal to 0 initially, because like when you start typing the new input, we need to store the old value immediately. Or actually, rather, when you press the operator. So new input is going to be equal to true because we want you to start typing in the new number, which we would like you to like multiply by. So if you like type in, if you press 6 and then you press times, we want you to start entering in the new number. So so we're gonna immediately store this .old value, and then I think I can't decide what we should put there once you press it. Let's just copy what the calculator does. So 5 times. Okay, so they don't put any new number here. They just keep it as that, even though it's ready for new input. Okay, yeah. So I think this should work fairly well. So we'll type in 9 and then times, and then it's ready for a new input. So it'll allow us to take in a new number. There we go. Okay, now the only thing really left is the equals. So in the case where we press the equals, we want to set the input to be whatever the operator is. Like use the operator to combine the old input with the new input, or the old value with the new value. I'm just gonna put these next to each other so that it's easier to read. Okay, so in here we need a bunch of different checks. We also need to store what the operator was, because we need to know that when we're doing the equals. So we'll say last operator, and initially it's not going to be anything. Well, maybe we'll just set equal to times initially. I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. So inside of here, actually inside of the operator first, we need to store the operator. This dot last operator is going to be symbol. So this is how we store the operator. And then inside of this equals, we just got to check to see which one of the operators it was. So if the last operator is equal to what are the different symbols we have? We have X. Let's do that one first. So if it's equal to X, then we need to set the input, or the value, to be this dot value multiplied by this dot old value. But we need to turn these both into numbers. Otherwise, yeah, it says number is not assignable to type string. I think there's a function called like parse integer. Yeah. So we're just going to parse an integer out of the value as well as the old value. So that's just a function that I remember exists to basically turn strings into integers, which we're going to need to do if we want to multiply them. And then we can just add an empty string to it to turn it back into a string. That's just kind of a shorthand to do integer to string conversion. Okay, and then we just basically do another one of these for every single one of the operations. So else if it is the, I'll just go in order here, it's the minus symbol. Then we have plus and equals. Plus and then the last one is modulus. I feel like we're missing one. Yeah, where's divided by? We are missing divided by. Let's get rid of modulus and replace it by divided by. Divided by. There we go. Problem solved. I guess our calculator isn't that fancy after all, because it doesn't have the modulus symbol. What a shame. Okay, and then I basically just go and replace all of the symbols with the proper symbol. So if it's times, we multiply them. If it's minus, then we subtract them. If it's plus, we add them. And then if it's divided by, then we divide them. Alright, let's see how that's working so far. So I type in 5. We'll do 50 and then multiplied by 3 equals. Dang it, guys, it didn't work. Is a number. Okay, so inside of the equals, I'm just going to... Oh, whoops. In the operator, I didn't assign this old value to be num. Or sorry, symbol. Oh, wait. Wait a second. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, the old value is going to be the current value. Yeah. Because we're... so basically, like the value is stored up here at the top. And then when you press an operator, then you want to immediately take that value, this value, and store an old value so that we can use it in the calculations. I meant to do that before, but sometimes when I'm talking, I'm trying to talk a lot, then I just forget what I'm doing. So, but we should be good now. So, let's try 50 times 3 equals 150. Guys, it's working. I know there are still some bugs probably. Like, for instance, if I clear it out, actually if I refresh the page, and then I just press equals, actually it didn't blow up. That's awesome. Okay, what about 3? What if I try and divide by 0? Three divided by 0, it actually let me do that. In math, that's undefined. Well, our calculator is very awesome. Oh, when we press equals, we also need to be ready for new input. Just in case the user wants to type in a new operation. So let's test that out, because I was able to put a 9 after the 0 because ready for new input was false. So let's try 50 times 9. Is that right? 5 times 9? Guys, I'm so tired right now. Yes, I think it's right. Yes, because 10 times 5 is 50, or 500. Or 10 times 50 is 500, and then minus another 50, because it's only 9, is 450. Alright. And then I'm going to try minusing 3. Oh. Minus 3. Wait. Why didn't that work? Minus 3. Okay, let's test it out with 3 minus 1 equals. Okay, negative 2. Okay, wait, so we have a bug with subtraction. Let's go fix that bug. So if it is if the operator is subtract, then oh, whoops, I have the order of these wrong. It's old value. It really should be in this order. It should be old value and then the new value, because we wanted, like, otherwise we were doing it in reverse. That's why it gave us a negative number. Yeah, whoops, that's a bug. So if we use subtract, then it should be old value, the original value, minus the current value. That looks more right to me. Let's check it out. 9 minus 3 equals, okay, minus 2 equals. It's working pretty well. Now let's try inputting a new thing. 5, 6, 3 multiplied by 3 equals. Guys, our calculator's working. Let's see how it looks on the mobile view. So I'm going to click this mobile button. Looks not bad. I think we could probably change the width of these guys to be a little bit bigger. Where is my button? There it is. So instead of 20, let's do like, to be more precise, I'll show you guys how to use this calc function. It really should be 25%, but then it's just minus some constant value. So this is how you remedy percentage with pixels in CSS. So we'll do 25 minus like 16px, and then I'll just keep raising and lowering this number till it looks good. So it looks like it's 4px. I guess that's like the padding between the numbers. I guess another thing we could do is just like get rid of the margin that's on the side. So margin of 0. But I'm not really sure if we want to do that. So we'll put the calc back. So back inside of the the SCSS, we're gonna style the calc button's width to be the result of calculating 20% of the width of its parent element minus 4px. What did I do wrong? Oh, it's 25%. I'm doing this thing today where I'm fasting. I call it fasting first. It's the 1st of March right now. And I just fast the 1st of every month, or at least this month I'm doing it, just for health reasons. Yeah, that's why I'm kind of lightheaded right now. But I'm trying to drink lots of water. Anyways, guys, our calculator is fully functional. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm trying to do more kind of beginner stuff because I know a lot of you guys aren't super familiar with a lot of this stuff. If you guys like this sort of content, unedited and much more heavy explanation, let me know in the comments. I really do read those. Please let me know, and please leave a like. It really helps boost the channel. I'd really appreciate both of those things, a comment and a like. And with that said, I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys had fun building this calculator, and I'll see you later. Take care.